Dr. Vilakazi, this planned protest is happening a day before Human Rights Day, which we know is also Sharpeville Day. It was called Sharpeville Day. And we know what happened at that time and the consequences of people who took to the streets peacefully in protest. When you take a look at the timing of this protest, that it is happening a day before Sharpeville Day, what goes through your mind?
Good morning, Dudu, and good morning to viewers at home. It's nostalgic. It sends us back to what happened in Sharpeville when we are seeing that in the year 2023, we are still going to the streets to protest about our rights to basic services as a country, our rights to be seen as humans. Similarly as it happened in Sharpeville when the residents of Sharpeville marched and they were shot by the apartheid police, demanding, of course, the right to be seen during that time when it was apartheid, when black people and the black majority could not be recognized as equal citizens, treated largely as second-class citizens. Fast forward to where we are now with the economic freedom fighters, Dudu, it reminds us of that time that is it Uhuru in the country. Tomorrow we should be, or on the 21st, we should be celebrating what is called the Human Rights Day. But some of the people are arguing that actually this is Sharpeville Day because there is really nothing to celebrate. So much has not changed for the citizens of the country. Many people are even saying it feels very much like we're still living in a different kind of an apartheid that is supposed to be called democracy, but it's an economic kind of an apartheid where the black majority continue to be subjugated economically, right into the corners and the pavements of poverty in the country. And the situation of electricity, which is what is prompting the economic freedom fighters to go into the streets on the 20th, exacerbates, that conditionality and that positionality for the majority of the poor in the country. So this day, as it's coming, as Sharpeville Day, the ANC decided to call it the Human Rights Day, is then a day that reminds us of the pains of what it means to be marginalized. And I think deeply so now that we are supposed to be living in a democratic dispensation and to viewers at home, but the situation of load shedding has ensured that we live in darkness, and the consequences thereof, increased levels of poverty for women in the country and the elderly, exacerbated circumstances of gender-based violence and femicide, where we continue to be murdered and raped and killed in the hands of lovers and family members in darkness, because the streets are now dark, the parks are dark, the corners are dark, and just the question of productivity. A lot of workers, since this load shedding has started, and I would want to say it's not a new phenomenon. Former President Thabo Mbeki tells us that this problem started around 1997, right? So there are records of that. So you see decreasing levels of productivity in South Africa, just in terms of output to the economy. Many of us are working half day, because you see load shedding happening as early as 10 o'clock in some circumstances, ending around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And for some people, that is a day gone for work, because some people knock off at 4 o'clock. They can't, of course, do this work after hours because they have to fend to family members and children, particularly women. So that is what is the impact of what is happening here. Increased morbidities. These are things that we don't talk about. When we talk about morbidities, we're talking about physical and psychological conditions that load shedding has subjected us to, that are outside of the normal well-being of a person. We are seeing in rural communities and in some places people just getting strokes, because of the conditions of load shedding, exacerbated with water issues and so on, that we are thirsty, but also we are exposed to global warming. So people are just getting strokes and getting disabilities because of these conditions. And I don't want to even talk about people with chronic illnesses who have experienced death in the hands of hospitals, but also at home, because machineries are not working, because of electricity. The rise in fuel costs and diesel costs, because businesses have got to now buy this diesel to be able to keep up. Rise in cost of doing business affects small businesses and township economies. I think we have been saying all of this. And increased rates of femicide, right? Women are dying because women are dependent in majority in the hands of lovers. Intimate partner violence is increasing. There's so much I can say. Decreased incomes for households because businesses who can't operate in a period of 4 hours or 5 hours in a day have to lay off workers because they can't keep up, with the cost of salaries for workers who are just sitting and not working because machines are not working during the day because of lack of energy and electricity. So there's those things.
Dr. Vilakazi, let's then take a listen at how the ANC reads the situation. Here's the Secretary General of the party, Fikile Vilakazi.
Here in South Africa, you've got a right to protest. But to shut down, it goes beyond protest. And you're right, as a political party, as an individual. You are basically challenging the authority of the state. You are basically challenging the rule of law in the country. We don't venture into political parties and what they want and what they don't want. We are not against the EFF marching or doing anything. We are against anarchy and chaos.
The party is against anarchy and chaos, Dr. Vilakazi.
Why is the ANC insecure? The Public Gatherings Act in South Africa guarantees the right to protest for any citizens. The ANC itself was marching in Tshwane the other day. No one went into the media and asked them, please don't do violence, and no one threatens them to say they're taking down the state and so on. Why is it that it is an opposition party that is now wanting to stand up and on behalf of the rights of citizens, that the ANC is reacting in this manner? For me, that is revealing political insecurity. Why do they feel like the EFF is taking over the state? The EFF is standing with SAFTU. It's not just the economic freedom fighters, on behalf of workers, on behalf of the poor citizens of this country who are tired of load shedding. And it is the role of the opposition. I've always said that the responsibility to heal South Africa is not the responsibility of the ANC. It is the responsibility of opposition parties in parliament. The DA has also done its own marches. No one said anything. If the economic freedom fighters now and SAFTU, suddenly people feel insecure that the state is going to be taken over. I didn't hear anything from the Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema, speaking about wanting to take over the state. I didn't hear anything about an insurrection of some kind. But of course, the ANC perhaps is revealing to us what happened in July in KwaZulu-Natal with the July unrests. When the supporters of the former President Jacob Zuma went into the streets and they looted the streets, and of course there were some claims of possible insurrections that happened in the hands of alleged ANC members. Maybe they're telling us that that is their behavior. I'm not sure if that is actually a behavior that we should be anticipating on the 28th. What if the EFF does not really extend into violence? For me, those are the things we should be talking about. In any opposition party, what if really it becomes a peaceful protest that really takes the matters of citizens into cognizance? What does that mean then for democratic elections in 2024? People are saying the EFF is already doing its own campaign. President Ramaphosa has been doing imbizos everywhere. He's now like in KwaZulu-Natal, if he's not completed that journey. He's been in the Free State. He's been in different places. Fikile Vilakazi has been doing those things as well. So why now that it is SAFTU and the economic freedom fighters, there are these fears? So there is some kind of phobia that I see here, and discomfort, because possibly they can see that citizens are really exhausted, and something is likely to happen should this march succeed on Monday. So I just wanted to point that out. Be that as it may, I think it is a public right of everyone to protest. And I think we don't want to see a situation of Sharpeville. Remember, we are going to the 21st, where we are remembering the people of Sharpeville and the massacres that happened there. That as the security forces are going to the streets, we do not want a heightened military situation where citizens are going to suffer in the hands of the security forces, in the hands of the police, because that is what happens. As soon as the state deploys military forces in the streets, women, and particularly black bodies, tend to drop first in the streets. So we just want to say to our honorable leaders in the country, can we allow citizens to exercise the right to protest in this regard? It is just about time that somebody speaks out about these atrocities that you're experiencing in the name of darkness and electricity. So for me, that is the situation. And I think that the ANC as government, has got to be seen to rather protecting that right to protest and ensuring, in fact, that those who are marching are protected and are guarded safely instead of being afraid of a government that will be taken over. We are a democratic state. Everybody has the right to protest, and we will go to elections. South Africans are going to exercise their right to vote like any other, political party. And I think that the ANC must find comfort in that and not expose something that feels like some level of political insecurity in this regard.
Let's close it off and take a listen at what we heard from the leader of the Red Berets last night, telling his supporters this. Let's take a listen.
If you know how the day works, the 20th of March starts immediately at 12 a.m. It's not starting at 10 a.m. It's not starting at 12 p.m. It starts at 12 a.m. On the 20th, we start 12 a.m. until 12 a.m. in the evening.
You mentioned this being treated carefully so that bodies do not drop. In the week earlier, when he was giving detail about the shutdown, Julius Malema said that they are using their bodies to fight for those who do not necessarily have a voice. And so this call and this march and the anticipation of violence, the creation of fear, even before it starts, tells you what?
It just tells us the fragility of the state that we are in. South Africa has become a fragile state. And of course, I have been saying that trust has been eroded. We don't trust each other anymore. We don't know if you go to the pavements and just march for socio-economic rights that someone is just going to murder you. So that's the level of fragility that we are at as a nation. And I think it exposes that perhaps we're moving more closer even towards a failed state because of the issues that are prompting us, generally as citizens to go into the streets, and the opposition, because some citizens are saying they're going to join this. So that is, for me, the question of saying that is what has become of our bodies in South Africa. Our bodies have become fragile. Our bodies have become volatile, which is a symbolism and an exposure of our political state as well. And I think we need to speak to that reality. Beyond this much, how do we address the fact that South Africa has become a fragile state and we are likely to become a failed state if we do not urgently address issues of power, energy, and the consequences that it raised to, like things of unemployment, the economy, shutting down. I think the other day the President Cyril Ramaphosa himself was saying, South Africans, our economy is on its knees. We need to do something in terms of the energy program. So those are signals that are saying we are even so afraid of each other that no one trusts any other. I mean, you can see it everywhere in the education sector. The massacres, in the artists are dying every week in the country, in the hands of there's so much happening in this nation. And we are that fragile. We are angry. We are just deeply disappointed in terms of the developments of our democracy. So that's what it reveals to me. And that's the reality. And I've been saying, Dudu, we need a national conversation in South Africa, a conversation that says, how do we heal ourselves from this? There are people, other opposition parties have been calling for a national referendum. The black majority, I would say this selectively, are really angry. Democracy has not translated into gains, right? Of course, there are certain things that the ANC has done at a legal level in terms of legislation, but in terms of socio-economic realities, nothing has changed. And I keep reminding us that when CODESA happened, the white population was given a right to do a white-only referendum so that they can voice in terms of what needs to happen for them to enjoy a democratic South Africa. We have never done that for the black majority. And until we go to that place, and whatever we call it, whether we call it a national referendum or national conversation, that involves the black majority to say, how do you want this democracy to be run? And I want to point to the ANC, to a policy document that was produced by Usupra Mahumapil. He's a member of the ANC, and I don't think they attended to that suggestion when he was saying bring together the black consciousness, political parties and citizens in the country to talk about this issue of national consciousness, issues of national interest. How do we really make this democracy real for everyone? And I'm not necessarily speaking in exclusivity of the white population, because I'm aware of the referendum that happened during CODESA. I'm just saying let us balance so that this becomes a truly rainbow nation that is enjoyed on the basis of everyone having said this is how things should be. And I think this anger that we are seeing here is because there's this continued deprivation of voice that happens for certain citizens in the country, even during democracy, and that is frustrating. And that's why we keep seeing these protests and high levels of what other people are calling violence, but actually expressions of frustrations in our streets.
Socio-political analyst Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, thank you very much, ma'am, for your time this morning.